What if I told you that the world's most successful people, top CEOs, global leaders, and high achievers aren't just talented or lucky, but guided by a very specific set of habits? Think about it. Why is it that some people keep growing, keep winning, and keep performing at their peak, while others reach success once and then slowly lose their momentum? That's where the difference between achievers and high performers comes alive. Achievers work hard, they chase challenges, and they push themselves to win. But eventually, many of them hit a ceiling. Their careers stall, their drive begins to fade, and their enthusiasm burns out. Yes, they succeed, but they often can't sustain that success because they lack the principles that could take them even higher. High performers, however, play a different game. They achieve everything achievers do and then go far beyond. They don't just win once, they keep winning. And they do it while protecting their happiness, their health, and their sense of purpose. So how do they do it? How can you rise to that level of long-term success without sacrificing your joy or your well-being? The answer lies in learning and mastering what Brendon Burchard calls high-performance habits. For decades, Brendon has coached leaders and achievers at the highest levels. Through deep research, interviews, and real-world experience, he discovered that high performers share 6 life-changing habits. These habits are not reserved for the elite. They can be learned and practiced by anyone, from any background, at any stage of life. And here's the best part. When you master these habits, you don't just become successful, you become extraordinary. This book is your invitation to step into that extraordinary version of yourself. So, are you ready to discover the very first high-performance habit that can transform your life? Let's begin. Habit 1. Seek clarity. Let me ask you something. How often do you pause and ask yourself, who am I, and what do I really want from life? At first, these questions may sound too simple, almost obvious. Yet, they are among the most powerful questions you can ever answer, because the clarity they bring can completely reshape your life. Clarity means knowing yourself at the deepest level. It's about being honest with your strengths and your weaknesses, recognizing your values, and identifying what truly matters to you. When you have this level of self-awareness, your confidence grows, and your sense of direction becomes stronger. High performers don't leave this to chance. Their journey begins with self-awareness, with defining their identity, embracing their values, and understanding both the positive and negative traits that shape them. That clarity is the foundation of a positive outlook and the fuel for consistent success. But clarity doesn't stop at who you are. It also extends to where you're going. You must know your goals, and not just vague hopes, but clear, compelling targets that challenge you to grow. Goals that are too easy won't inspire you, and they won't bring you the satisfaction you're seeking. Challenging goals, on the other hand, bring energy, excitement, and a deep sense of fulfillment. Think about it. How many times have you felt frustrated or disconnected from your work simply because you forgot to remind yourself of who you are and what you're working toward? That's why Brendon Burchard encourages us to envision the future in 4 distinct ways. This exercise is about painting a clear picture of the person you want to become, the skills you want to master, the relationships you want to build, and the contributions you want to make in the world. When you can see that future with clarity, every step you take today feels purposeful, no matter how small it may seem. Clarity is not just a mental exercise, it's a daily practice. The more you remind yourself of who you are and where you're going, the easier it becomes to handle setbacks, stay motivated, and make better choices. And that brings us to a fascinating question. Once you know who you are, and where you want to go, how do you keep your energy alive to pursue it all? The answer lies in the second habit, one that most people overlook, but every high performer treasures. The Future 4. Clarity is not just about who you are right now. It's also about who you want to become. High performers don't leave their future to chance. They create what Brendon Burchard calls a vision for the future for their future self, their social interactions, their skills, and their service to others. Let's begin with your future self. There's a famous saying, "Know thyself." But high performers go one step further. They don't just know themselves, they imagine who they are becoming. If someone asked you, "Where do you see yourself 10 years from now?" would you have a confident answer? Most people struggle with that question, but high performers can answer it with clarity and conviction. They already see who they want to be, and every day they take deliberate steps to move closer to that vision. The second area is social interactions. High performers carry an uncommon level of social intelligence and situational awareness. When they interact with others, they do so with clarity and intention. Think back to your last phone call. Did you speak with the right tone? Recall your last conflict. Did you stay true to your values, or did emotions take over? During your most recent conversation, did you make the effort to listen more than you spoke? High performers set clear intentions before every interaction. They want to bring positive emotions, set a good example, and make the other person feel seen and valued. They decide in advance what kind of tone they will use, and they ask themselves how they can be of help. This is why people naturally trust them, follow them, and feel inspired by them. The third part of the Future 4 is skills. High performers are crystal clear about which skills they must develop for their future. They don't chase every shiny hobby or try to learn everything at once. Instead, they choose deliberately, focus deeply, and aim for mastery. If they decide to learn music, they won't dabble in 10 different instruments. They will pick one, find a great teacher, and practice with relentless discipline until they achieve excellence. They are not scattershot learners who jump from one skill to another. They plan, they commit, and they specialize. And that focus is what makes them stand out. Finally, there is service. Often, when people feel uninspired or unmotivated at work, the problem isn't the workload. It's the absence of purpose. They've forgotten whom they are serving. Imagine a manager who sits in an office far removed from the customers they're supposed to impact. Over time, the work feels empty. But when you reconnect with the people you serve, when you listen to their stories and understand their needs, you reignite your sense of purpose. High performers never lose sight of service. They care deeply about contributing to others and making a difference, and that is why they continue to give their best in the present. Clarity about your future self, your relationships, your skills, and your service creates a compass for your life. It ensures that every step you take, no matter how small, points toward a bigger vision. And that leads us to the next essential question. Once you know who you want to be and the future you want to create, how do you generate the energy to pursue it every single day? That is the power of the second high performance habit. Habit 2. Generate energy. Have you noticed how some people seem to light up every room they walk into? It's not just their presence, it's their energy. High performers understand that energy is not limited to physical stamina. Of course, they keep their bodies active and strong, but they also know that true energy comes from a balance of physical vitality, emotional positivity, and mental alertness. To perform at their best, they need all three working together. Think about it. When your energy is low, everything in life feels heavier. Challenges seem impossible, motivation disappears, and even simple tasks feel like a burden. You go through the motions of life instead of truly living it. And it doesn't just affect you, others sense it too. When your energy is consistently low, people trust you less. They're less likely to support you, and they don't feel inspired to follow your lead. Brendon Burchard's research showed that top CEOs and senior executives consistently operate at high levels of energy. In fact, in many companies, their energy levels are so strong they could be compared to professional athletes. That energy doesn't just keep them productive, it fills them with greater happiness and higher success. And here's the good news. This isn't reserved for them. You can achieve the same in your own life. Imagine a power plant. Its role is not just to hold energy, but to generate it, to transform it, and to distribute it. You must think of yourself in the same way. Don't wait for joy, motivation, or love to arrive from someone else. Generate it within yourself. You already have the capacity to create high energy whenever you need it. So how do you do this? Brendon suggests some simple but powerful practices. The first is release tension, set intention. In his years of coaching high performers, he observed that their biggest energy drain often came from poor transitions. A transition is simply the moment you move from one task to another. Waking up and getting out of bed is a transition from sleep mode to active mode. Preparing your children for school, commuting to work, moving from your desk to a meeting, or shifting from your professional role to your role as a parent at home. These are all transitions. Now think of how many transitions you go through in a single day. Imagine you just had a conflict with your boss in a meeting and then immediately return to your desk to complete paperwork. If you don't pause, you carry that frustration into the next task. You lose presence, your work suffers, and by the time you get home, you're too drained to enjoy time with your family. High performers avoid this trap by releasing tension before moving into the next task. It can be as simple as closing your eyes for a moment, taking a few deep breaths, and consciously letting go of the stress from the previous activity. Then, once the tension is released, you set an intention. You ask yourself, what do I want from this next task? How can I approach it with positivity and purpose? This simple ritual refreshes your energy and keeps your performance sharp. The second practice is to bring the joy. Joy is one of the greatest multipliers of performance. Studies have shown that people who sustain positive emotions are healthier, build stronger relationships, and even earn more. In fact, joy is a clear indicator of high performance. Those who bring joy into their work perform better, recover faster from setbacks, and inspire those around them. Neuroscientists have discovered that positive emotions like joy actually help your brain grow new cells, while negative emotions slowly destroy them. Of course, high performers also experience stress, sadness, and fatigue. The difference is that they don't stay stuck there. They bounce back faster because they have trained their minds to return to positivity. They consciously redirect their thoughts, recover their emotional balance, and step back into a state of energy. The truth is, energy is not something you wait for. It is something you create. And when you learn to generate it on command, you not only elevate your performance, but also lift the people around you. But here's the key question. If energy is so powerful, how can you harness it every single day, even in difficult moments? The answer lies in practical habits that we'll continue to uncover, starting with one that goes beyond motivation. It's about raising necessity. Habit 3. Raise necessity. Why is it that some people wake up every single morning with an unshakable drive, while others hit the snooze button and struggle through the day? The difference is necessity. High performers don't wait for inspiration or luck. They cultivate an inner urgency that pushes them to act. Raising necessity means you feel a deep need to take action every day. It's not about wishing for things to get better or hoping you'll perform at your best. It's about knowing you must act now. When you raise necessity, you don't give yourself an option to delay, to slack off, or to compromise. You feel pulled forward by duty, by standards, and by the knowledge that people are counting on you. Without this necessity, you begin to feel out of alignment with your own potential. You sense that you are falling short of your responsibilities, and that feeling of letting yourself down weighs heavily. Necessity, then, becomes a powerful form of motivation. It creates urgency, focus, and momentum. Brendon Burchard often asks high performers a simple question. Why do you work so hard? How do you stay so focused and committed? Surprisingly, he hears the same answer again and again. Because this is who I am. I cannot imagine living any other way. For them, giving their best isn't a choice. It's part of their identity. Their actions carry necessity because they know people are watching, people are expecting, and opportunities can't be wasted. They would rather push themselves now than regret later what they failed to do. So how can you raise necessity in your own life? Brendon suggests 3 powerful practices. The first is, know who needs your A game. High performers constantly ask themselves, who needs me to bring my very best right now? Whether it's a client, a colleague, a student, or a family member, they remind themselves that their work impacts others. Brendon even teaches a technique called the desk trigger. Each time you sit down at your desk, ask, who needs me on my A game today? That simple question shifts your mindset and elevates your performance. The second practice is affirm the why. To affirm means to declare with confidence. The why is your purpose, the reason behind your actions. High performers rarely do anything without a clear sense of why it matters. They talk about it, they remind themselves of it, and they take pride in it. Think of an athlete who excitedly shares their training routine. Their passion is visible because their workouts aren't random. They are tied to a powerful purpose. Affirming your why doesn't mean you claim to be always right. In fact, high performers stay open to new ideas and approaches, but it does mean they anchor their actions in a sense of meaning that keeps them motivated. The third practice is level up your squad. Perhaps one of Brendon's most practical pieces of advice is this: surround yourself with people who pull you higher. If you want to perform at your best, you need to spend time with those who are already operating at a high level. Positive, successful, and growth-oriented people naturally raise your standards. The opposite is also true. If you're surrounded by negativity, it drags you down. High performers choose their circle carefully. They seek out mentors, colleagues, and friends who challenge them to grow, who inspire new ideas, and who model excellence. Raising necessity is about creating an environment, both inside yourself and around yourself, that makes success not just a preference, but a requirement. When you live with that kind of urgency, mediocrity has no space to survive. But once necessity is raised, the next question is, how do you channel it into actual results? That's where the fourth habit comes in, increasing productivity. Habit 4. Increase productivity. Have you ever had those days where you feel endlessly busy, yet somehow you're not making any real progress? You check off tasks, you attend meetings, you answer emails, yet deep down, you know you're just spinning your wheels. The problem often isn't your work ethic. The problem is focus. Many people spend their time working hard on things that don't truly matter or that don't align with their strengths and passions. High performers approach productivity differently. They don't confuse activity with achievement. They prove that it's possible to work hard, take care of your health and relationships, and still avoid constant stress. The secret is that they tie their sense of fulfillment to responsibilities that actually matter. For them, productivity isn't about doing more. It's about doing more of what counts. Brendon Burchard says, "You don't need to be superhuman, addicted to caffeine, or chained to endless to-do lists. Instead, you need a handful of intentional practices. The first is simple but powerful. Increase the outputs that matter. Ask yourself, are you really spending your best hours producing your highest value work? Or are you just shuffling emails, sorting files, and attending endless meetings? Research shows that the average office worker spends nearly 28% of their time just dealing with email. That's almost a third of their working life consumed by something that rarely moves the needle forward. This is why Brendon emphasizes focusing on your prolific quality output, or PQO. Your PQO is the work that delivers the greatest value in your field. It's the body of work that people will know you for, remember you by, and reward you for. If you're a writer, your PQO is your actual writing, not formatting emails or reorganizing notes. If you're a baker, your PQO might be those 2 best-selling cupcakes you can perfect and produce at scale. Beethoven, Mozart, and the Beatles are remembered not because they dabbled in every possible task, but because they consistently produced exceptional, high-quality creations. Steve Jobs even cut back on Apple's product line so he could focus energy on the products that truly mattered. Your task is to identify your PQO and pour your best time and energy into it. Everything else, if possible, should be reduced, delegated, or eliminated. Consistency with your PQO is what drives true productivity. The second practice is to chart your 5 moves. Here's the reality. Talent can take you only so far. At some point, if you don't have a clear plan, your performance will plateau. High performers don't just wing it, they strategize. They think more before acting. They step back and ask, what's my biggest goal right now? What are the 5 major moves that will get me there? Once those moves are clear, they break each one down into smaller steps, assign deadlines, and place them on the calendar. This practice works in any field: business, sports, creative careers, or personal growth. If you're starting a business, talent and passion may get you off the ground, but scaling it requires clear, strategic moves. If you want to write a book, you need 5 major steps: outlining, drafting, editing, publishing, and marketing. By charting your 5 moves, you create a roadmap that keeps you aligned with what matters most. High performance requires this discipline. It's not about being the busiest person in the room. It's about being the person who consistently produces meaningful results. And that leads us to the next question. Once you've mastered focus and productivity, how do you influence others so your impact multiplies far beyond yourself? That's where Habit 5 begins. Habit 5. Develop influence. Have you ever wondered whether people truly listen to you? Do they trust your words enough to follow your lead or take action because of your guidance? Influence isn't about being the loudest voice in the room. It isn't even about being extroverted. At its core, influence is the ability to shape the beliefs and behaviors of others in a positive direction. And here's the surprising truth. Anyone can develop it. Many people believe that influence is reserved for powerful leaders or charismatic personalities. But the reality is, even the most introverted person has the power to influence if they are willing to ask, to communicate, and to guide. The biggest reason people fail to discover their own influence is fear. Fear of rejection, fear of judgment, fear of being ignored. But you never know how much influence you have until you ask. Ask your child to help. Ask your partner for support. Ask your colleagues to consider your idea. Even if you fail the first time, don't stop trying. With practice, your communication improves, and people begin to see the value in your perspective. So how exactly do high performers build influence? Brendon Burchard highlights a few powerful practices. The first is teaching others how to think. Imagine your 7-year-old child is struggling with math homework. Frustrated, he throws down his pencil and says, "I hate math." In that moment, you have a choice: to let him continue with that mindset or to influence how he sees the subject. You could help him reframe the challenge, show him the fun side of solving problems, and guide him toward a more empowering perspective. In the same way, leaders influence their teams by directing how they think about competitors, the market, or even the future of their industry. This doesn't mean controlling people. It means helping them see bigger possibilities and encouraging them to think at a higher level. The second practice is challenging people to grow. This one is tough, because when you challenge someone, their first reaction may be defensiveness. They may push back, saying, "Leave me alone." But high performers know how to challenge with respect. They make it clear from the start that their intention is not to criticize, but to help. They use a polite, supportive tone, and they always remind the other person of their sincere purpose. Done correctly, a challenge stops feeling like pressure and starts becoming inspiration. Think of Kobe Bryant, who once said, "The most important thing is to try and inspire people so that they can be great in whatever they want to do." High performers adopt this philosophy. They want to inspire others to reach higher, not just for their own success, but so everyone around them rises together. They challenge their friends, colleagues, and teams to bring out their best, always pairing the challenge with encouragement, respect, and a clear sense of purpose. That's the essence of influence. It isn't manipulation. It isn't about power. It's about guiding others to see more, do more, and become more. And when you learn to influence with integrity, your impact multiplies far beyond your own efforts. But influence alone isn't enough. To truly thrive, you need one final habit: the courage to act boldly, even when fear and doubt try to hold you back. That's what we'll explore next. Habit 6. Demonstrate courage. When you hear the word courage, what comes to mind? Most people think of heroes saving lives or extraordinary acts that make headlines. But the truth is, courage isn't about fearlessness or grand gestures. It's about taking action even when fear is present. As Mark Twain once said, "Courage is not the absence of fear, but the mastery of it." Real courage is choosing to move forward despite uncertainty, discomfort, or doubt. And sometimes the smallest acts of courage can create the biggest changes. High performers know that courage begins with embracing struggle. In today's world, convenience has become the norm. Technology has made our lives easier, which in many ways is a blessing, but it has also made us weaker. We avoid effort, we shy away from difficulty, and we quit too quickly. A generation ago, persistence, effort, and resilience were marks of strength. Today, it has almost become acceptable to give up at the first sign of hardship, whether it's dropping out of school, ending a friendship, quitting a job, or walking away from a marriage. But every time we run from struggle, we lose an opportunity to grow. Courageous people see struggle differently. They honor it. They recognize that struggle builds strength, sharpens character, and prepares them for real challenges. No great leader has ever emerged without hardship. Struggle is not something to fear, it is something to respect. When you face life's difficulties head-on, you prove to yourself that you are capable of more than you imagined. Another way high performers demonstrate courage is by sharing their truth and ambitions openly. Every human being has a desire to be free, to express who they really are, and to speak their true feelings. But honesty requires bravery, because rejection and disappointment are always possible. It takes courage to tell the world who you are, to declare what you want, and to pursue your ambitions without apology. High performers understand this deeply. They don't lower their standards to please others, and they don't let criticism silence them. Instead, they live authentically, expressing their real selves and daring to share their dreams. They know that courage isn't about avoiding judgment. It's about staying true to yourself no matter what others think. In the end, courage is the habit that binds all the others together. Clarity gives you direction. Energy gives you fuel. Necessity gives you urgency. Productivity keeps you focused. And influence multiplies your impact. But without courage, none of these habits can reach their full potential, because at some point, you'll need to take the leap, to step into the unknown, to risk failure, and to pursue a higher vision of yourself. And that's the ultimate secret of high performance. It is not reserved for the fearless. It belongs to those who act even when they are afraid. Conclusion: now that you've discovered the 6 high-performance habits, let's pause and reflect on what they truly mean. Clarity gives you direction. It helps you know who you are, what you value, and where you're going. Energy gives you the strength to keep moving forward. It fuels your body, mind, and emotions so you can show up fully every day. Necessity gives you urgency. It reminds you that your best is not optional, it's required. Productivity focuses your efforts on what really matters, so you stop wasting time and start creating meaningful results. Influence extends your impact beyond yourself, inspiring others to rise with you. And courage holds it all together. It's the habit that turns your vision into reality, because without bold action, none of the other habits can truly thrive. Together, these 6 habits form a system. They are not reserved for the elite, the wealthy, or the naturally gifted. They are practices that anyone can adopt, practices that you can begin applying right now, no matter where you are in life. High performance is not a talent you're born with. It's a decision you make day after day through your habits. So ask yourself, which of these habits will you start practicing today? Will you seek greater clarity? Will you generate more energy? Will you raise necessity and demand more from yourself? Will you sharpen your productivity? Will you develop influence, or will you summon the courage to step boldly into your next chapter? Remember this: extraordinary is not reserved for a chosen few. It's available to anyone willing to practice the habits that create it, and that includes you. Thank you for listening to this audiobook summary of High Performance Habits by Brendon Burchard. I hope these lessons have inspired you to take action and elevate your own life. Which of the 6 habits spoke to you the most? Share your thoughts in the comments. I'd love to hear how you plan to apply these ideas. And if you enjoyed this summary, don't forget to subscribe to Audiobook 101 for more life-changing book summaries on success, mindset, wealth, and personal growth. Every like, share, and comment helps more people discover these powerful lessons. Remember, high performance is not about perfection, it's about progress, consistency, and courage. Start small, stay consistent, and keep stepping into the best version of yourself, because you are capable of more than you know. Until next time, keep learning, keep growing, and keep performing at your highest level.